All right, welcome everyone. This is Accelerating the Sales Cycle with Salesforce. Salesforce, as you may know, is a great DocuSign customer, a DocuSign partner, and a DocuSign investor. And the DocuSign Salesforce integration is one of the most powerful integrations that we have as an organization. It's an integration that lets you automate a ton of manual processes that save your salespeople and your sales ops people a ton of time in the background to make them significantly more productive. So today we're fortunate enough to have two customers who have done a ton of work with that Salesforce and DocuSign integration. We've got ComScore and DeVry Education Group who are going to talk you through what their instances look like, the successes that they've had in the combined implementation, and some tips and best practices for things that you might be thinking of as you're thinking of how you might deploy that integration. So first up, I'd like to introduce Carolyn Williams-Hole. Carolyn is the Director of Salesforce Automation at ComScore. She's implemented Salesforce back in 2005, is that correct? And has been with ComScore as they've grown that implementation from 60 users to over 750 on a global basis today. So in addition to that Salesforce implementation, she has implementation for a number of the other systems within their sales stack, including DocuSign, including Apttus. So she's got some great experience to be able to tell you guys about their journey in driving that implementation. So at this point, I'd like to welcome Caroline up to the stage.
Thank you very much. All right, so, well, first I need to figure out how to advance the slides, excuse me. Help. All right, ComScore. So who are we? We're like to say, a global cross-platform measurement leader. ComScore actually started in 1999, and since then has become ultimately a cross-platform measurement leader. We've just concluded our merger with a company called Rentrack. So now we are proud to say that we have a number of clients worldwide, 3,200 basically, 1,800 employees. We're based in Reston, Virginia. We cover about 75 different countries, and we've got 80 locations in 30 different countries. But the most impressive piece, I think, is this last bit, which is the big data, 1.9 trillion global interactions per month. And I'm getting somewhere with this. I'm not just touting ComScore as cool. So the ComScore difference, massive scale, smarter methodology, better information. We'd like to think that trickles down all the way through, our organization. So precision requires scale, and these are the numbers that we're talking about here. We are monitoring 260 million desktop screens. We're looking at 40,000 US movie theater screens, 40 million TV screens. This is since our merger with Rentrack. Precision drives scale, and that's what we're interested in. So what drives value for ComScore? Obviously, as you've seen from the preceding slides, precision, scale, massive scale, big data, smart methodology, but we've retained some of our entrepreneurial roots. We also deem flexibility to be really high up there for us as a value. And combined with that, a nimble footprint. We want to be able to turn on a pivot and act and change according to market conditions, etc. Having said all that, it's important for us to be efficient. So in 2014, we kind of had to take a look at our current state. And when I say we, I mean our incredibly brilliant legal minds and the legal team and our sales operations group. Because all those slides that you just looked at really weren't reflective of our processes in legal and sales ops. We had a very high contract volume, but we had a very small legal team. Despite their brilliance, there's only a couple of them. we were getting contracts submitted from all places in the globe, different time zones, etc. But we had no standard procedure, we had no centralization of the process, and probably the most egregious thing was that we had no transparency for the submitters. So a sales rep might send in a contract in their time zone, and then not be able to figure out where it sat in the process without calls and IMs and everything to our legal folks. So we knew we had to take a crack at fixing the issue. So basically what we had was a system that was absolutely not scalable. Check that off the box, not a good way. It was absolutely opaque. We couldn't figure out what was where, when, neither could the salespeople. And it was incredibly labor intensive. And so basically, I decided actually that it was basically a black hole. And we fessed up to our sales reps and we said, look, we know you're coping with this big black hole, also called the contract inbox, and we want to try and fix that for you. I had terrible trouble with the clicker, just saying. So the solution. We decided we were going to use Salesforce to centralize and standardize. Functionality in Salesforce made it the perfect platform for us. We'd been using it, as Matt said, since 2005. Although we started off using it as a very basic pipeline reporting system, in the intervening years, we have added layers of complexity in there, lots of different apps, and it's become totally embedded in our DNA. So it was the obvious place to start. Our sales teams were already comfortable and familiar with navigating Salesforce, not always enthused and loving it, but getting on with it. And Salesforce could also become a centralized repository of all the executed contracts. So to us, it was a simple formula. Salesforce, add in a contract management app and an e-signature app, and big win, right? No issues. The benefits that we saw immediately were that contracts could be created directly from the Salesforce opportunity. So instead of a sales rep having to create the op, and we do require a fair amount of data entry in those ops, they could, and then have to go pull down a Word legal template from our library in Salesforce, and then basically enter the same data that they just entered, they could actually create a contract directly from the Salesforce opportunity. We would use standard templates, which were already pre-approved by legal, so that would mean much more straightforward and error-free contracting. The time saver for reps who were entering this data twice would be, we thought, huge, well received. And basically, we thought this formula would give us a simple and efficient, fast and easy process for our sales reps to use. We were going to standardize the contract templates and the signing process, and the other big, huge benefit for us was a small legal team, generally one person countersigning most of the client contracts. He didn't have to be tied to his desk anymore. He could be on the golf course, or he could be in a lodge in Vale and tap, tap, sign the contracts, get it done. So we, being the great minds of legal and sales ops, were pumped. Until we rolled it out to what was a fairly small pilot team in New York. And literally these are the things that I heard. Oh, hell no, this sucks. And then we'd get, seriously, it is quicker and easier to do it the old way. And my favorite, hello, I don't have time for this, I'm supposed to be selling. This was not exactly what we had hoped for or expected. And to be fair, the sales reps did have some legitimacy to their complaints. We were asking them to constrain their creativity when they created contracts. This apparently is a terrible thing to ask of a salesperson. The setup that we scoped out was not completely intuitive. We'd spent, we thought, a lot of time on it with our vendor, but there were some technical glitches. We totally underestimated the change management challenge, And we clearly had not done a good job selling the benefits of this system to our sales reps. So clearly, we'd badly underestimated the challenge of changing ingrained sales behavior, and although Mr. Trump may think it's always good to be underestimated, we actually decided that it is not. Sorry, we're supposed to get a little animation there. There we go. All right. So we had a problem. The most critical factor for software success apparently is effective user adoption. Well, we had no user adoption, and worse, our users showed no interest in user adoption, and so we had to cope with the fact that we had an epic fail on our hands. Not a great career trailblazer, may I just say. So, just to make sure you got the point. So, it was time to regroup, right? Legal, sales ops, brilliant minds, we're going to regroup. We had to strategize. We knew at this point we had no choice. We had to absolutely crush this. We'd already spent the better part of a year scoping, designing, tweaking, etc. We didn't have any more time to lose. This was, a priority for our chief legal counsel and other senior executives. So the strategy. We had to change user perception that this was a time suck and a pain in the neck. We had to better demonstrate the value prop of this contract automation signing process in Salesforce. We had to do a better job highlighting the benefits. We had to problem solve so that if sales reps came to us and said, this does not work, you've got to fix it, we had to be open to that. And we also had to be forceful about saying, this is the future, guys, sorry. What we're doing now is not scalable. ComScore is all about scale. So the decision was made that we would, in my helicopter Salesforce person here, that I was going to hover around the pilot team and retrain them. And we built the training around 5 basic concepts. First is create your opportunity in Salesforce. Second, create the agreement in Salesforce. Go with the standard contract pre-approved language. Generate the contract document, and then send it directly to the client for e-signature, all in Salesforce. So I drilled down to the highest possible value and benefit that I could find for sales. And I focused on the step in the process that I knew would most resonate with our sales teams. Signature, please. All they ever want to do is get the contract signed. So that became, essentially, what I focused on. DocuSign, big win. And this was a ta-da moment for us and for the salespeople alike. Just because I like it. Okay. So in 2016, our current state, we've actually expanded beyond the initial small pilot team in New York to include 3 additional teams in other locations, which means I'm traversing the continent regularly, but it's all good. We'll be continuing the rollout in Q2 and Q3 to Canada and the UK, English-speaking countries. The overhead on our legal team has been dramatically reduced, and the turnaround time for client signature has also significantly decreased. And the real kicker for all of us, in a good way, is that it's transparent for everybody. Everything is tracked within Salesforce. Signed contracts are readily available within Salesforce, and the sales reps now don't have to constantly call and hound legal at the end of a quarter or the end of the year, for example, to ask them where the contract is in the process. So finally, we get our win. And one other just anecdotal thing I wanted to mention that was a huge win for us and kind of consolidated that we'd made the right choice. New Year's Eve, I got the work duty to work on New Year's Eve, continuing to support the pilot users. I think it was about 9:45 at night on the East Coast, so 6:45 in Seattle. Nevertheless, they wanted to get their contract in before the end of December, understood. The client was in, I think, some ski lodge somewhere, enjoying his New Year's Eve, and basically, long story short, We got the contract sent through after many iterations between legal, sent through DocuSign. He had his tablet there, opened it up, tap, tap, signed, done deal. Happy customer, happy sales rep. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. At this time, I'd like to welcome up our next speaker, and that is Huma Yusuf. Huma is the cloud administrator for the DeVry Education Group. She started in DeVry in 2007 and transitioned into her current role as cloud administrator in 2013, where she supports a number of big implementations, including Salesforce, DocuSign, and Qualtrics. So, Huma, welcome.
I think it will work. Hello. Okay. First of all, I would like to thank DocuSign that gave us a chance to share our experience with you guys. First, I will start with our company intro that you might not know about DeVry Education Group or might know about the DeVry Education Group. The purpose of DeVry Education Group is to empower the student to achieve their educational and career goals. These are our institutions. Not only this, we have partners that we work with across all the country to provide excellent service and meet their regions of our partners. And our partners are DePaul, Realtor, Northwest, Illinois Institute of Technology. Now, DocuSign instances. Currently, we have 12 DocuSign instances in production, in which 7 integrated with Salesforce. Let's move on with their DocuSign benefits. This is not only the integrated with Salesforce, it's overall DocuSign benefits. Reduce cycle time. It reduced our cycle time into from months to hours and weeks. Increased document completion rate. We have 96% faster close rates in a week. Elimination of signing errors. What does it mean to us? Students getting document completed without any mistakes and missing any required field. Reduce compliance risk. We are using a compliance-approved documents. Reduce transaction costs, which means that elimination of printing, faxing, and mailing. Great signing experience, new featured, DocuSign new feature signing experience that gives improved usability. Much more modern look to our signers. Easy button customization, that's what I'm talking about right now, that you can easily customize the custom buttons within the DocuSign and to get a recipient selection. Now, I will talk about my use case that I just, last year in December 2015, at our business wants us to integrate the Salesforce and integrate the DocuSign to Salesforce. And what they wanted is DeVry Medical International. We have 3 institutions there, which is Ross University School of Medicine, Ross University School of Veterinary Medicine, and Kerman College. That comes into one Salesforce org. What they want to send out residency application planning form. What it does, it's facilitate and provide a student advisement session for clinical clerkship selections. And we use a case object there. And when you say case object, it's not a custom object, it's a standard still DocuSign object. Why we utilize this custom button on it? Because they want a recipient selection on there. Recipient selection on that custom button. For that purpose, I basically use a standard JavaScript code, which is from DocuSign side. You can easily get it from there. 2 parameters, I modified it that way. That is CCTM, which is a custom contact type mapping. And you can easily see which maps Salesforce role to a specified DocuSign signer type, and signer 1, students, signer 2, advisors, and so on. The second parameter that I modified is a CRL, which is the custom recipient list. From where you can use their email address and full name, and then you can modify it, you can send a DocuSign button on there on the page layout, and then you can see your name is in the pre-populated there. It's easy. It's not only for the standard buttons, standard objects. You can utilize this thing for the custom objects as well. When we move further with this project, they wanted to know about, is it possible that when we send a DocuSign through the case object, can we send a DocuSign through the case object, but we want to see envelope ID in both object, which means case object and contact object, and the document name to be. Like if they're in further, right now they have only one form, but if we move further with a couple forms, how can we say, okay, this form has been sent out, this form has not been sent out, or how many forms has sent out to the specific students? Yes, the answer is yes. You can definitely do it through the DocuSign Connect settings, and you can see DSFC, DocuSign Status Object, which is a DocuSign Connects object is, and then you can modify it that way and easily get it. The next part was in that project that's like they wanted to know, like, okay, we got it. We got the attachment in a DocuSign rigid list, but what if, can we get the documents completed in a notes and attachment area in a case object? Because our students using their community sites, and when the case is sent it to them and they completed a document, they want to see their completed document there as well. Yes, you can do it. You can do it through the DocuSign Connect setting again. You can use your add an object there. You can use case ID as a Salesforce field and DocuSign field as an envelope external case. You can use attachment there. And once the completed attachment there, you can also modify it that way. Once the completed attachment is there, my status needs to be closed. Merge field tags and custom tags. Merge fields is a great thing that I loved to use the merge fields in our DocuSign things. That like, it's pre-populated the opportunity. It pre-populated case fields. It's pre-populated lead fields into Salesforce. When the document's completed, it's right back into the Salesforce. Salesforce report. Like we can use a Salesforce DocuSign standard report and modify it that way. Like if right now I use the completed filter. You can filter it your needs, like, okay, I want to see how many hours it's sent it to, the completed document has been sent out, and how many users sent it out or completed the documents. The value of DocuSign. This is a month report. I compile it, and in a week you can see 95% completed transaction we got, and less than 24 hours, 69%, and less than 1 hour, 38%. Conclusion. I mean, DocuSign gives us many benefits, but it's a very easy, simple integration with easy steps. DocuSign manual and also the support persons help us when integrating the Salesforce, all the questions and answers. It sent out Salesforce signed document very easy with the write back option in a DocuSign. Easily stored completed document in a Salesforce. And last but not least is like it satisfied our students in signing a document in any device. Before I end up my presentation, I would like to thank Sean Morrell, he's here, and he helped me all the way along with all the questions and answers, because I jumped into last year with DocuSign and I have a couple of questions. How can we achieve this? Can we achieve this? Can we do this? Sean, just email Sean, and I'm like, I got a right away answer. They're like, yes, you can do it. You can do it that way. And then, with the Stack Overflow sites, Google search, and all the answers are there. And that's our journey with the DocuSign. Thank you all.
All right, thank you, Huma. I'd love for you to stay up, and Caroline, if you'd join us as well. We've got time for a little bit of Q&A, so I've got some questions for the folks. Before I jump in, though, I want to see if anyone in the audience has anything at the start before I jump right in. So the question was, how do you manage the questions that legal has? Is that the iterations and edits from legal, is that done completely within Salesforce, or is there a separate process?
It's done completely within Salesforce. We knew we couldn't get away with expecting our sales teams to use pre-approved contracts only. And we didn't want to cripple them, obviously. So that is the most streamlined way. If they're really in a hurry, discuss the terms with the client first, know what they're getting, get it done. However, if there are changes, the document is locked, essentially, from Aptus, which is the product that we're using, so that if the salesperson or his client makes any changes, they're showing up as red lines. At that point, they can bring them back into Salesforce by uploading them, and that immediately flags a legal review and approval. So they will then go back and forth, iterating on the red lines. Eventually, our legal team will attach what's called a clean document within Salesforce. That is then, the e-signature button comes back, it lives again, and the client and the sales rep can send it right through at that point for client signature.
Okay,
I have a question. I'm just curious how you thought through, as you were looking at the workflows within your organizations, whether you would use, with regard to Salesforce, out-of-the-box DocuSign integration, maybe leverage some Apex with Salesforce and just the API on DocuSign to customize it a little bit. Just how you, apologize, I walked a little late if you did cover that, but just how you thought about that inflection point between out-of-the-box versus let's see if we can customize.
so the question was, how have they thought about using the out-of-the-box integration between Salesforce and DocuSign versus the potential to use the APIs to build something a little bit more custom? And I'll let you both take that.
We didn't. We went looking for contract automation software that would enable our sales reps to create an opportunity and, to use the technical term, spit out a contract from that, and then use DocuSign for the SIG process. And I'm not technical, so I don't talk API.
So I have my mic.
Oh, sorry, shoot.
So we are using, in Derived Education Group, we are using API, and that's the part of the developer does. And all the, like most of our Salesforce orgs are currently, like you can say 2 orgs are API, which has like not fully API, like some certain fields that we click on, okay, this send the document to the student. It's based on like enrollment agreements forms or TRF forms. So we have API now. So we are using both. So.
Will the customer be able to come and look at what contracts that they have ever exchanged with you historically?
So the question is whether the customer will have access to the contracts that they've signed with you. And I've got an answer for that, but I'll let these guys take it first.
We don't have external users accessing our Salesforce, so no.
Yeah, what the customer will receive is anytime that they DocuSign a document, they'll receive a copy of anything that they signed. So if they did sign something, they will have something returned back to them. It's up to them in terms of what they do to store that in a specific place, but they will get a copy returned to them when the transaction is completed. Anything else, or is it my turn to grill our contestants? So the first thing that I have is for you, Huma. You talked about a great instance that you guys are looking at in terms of that match with medical students and the process to start them looking at where they would want to do their residency. That's obviously a big and important use case for those students. Were you able to pilot something there? Were you able to trial something, or did you just have to go and do kind of a big bang, start using the solution?
They haven't started yet. We just did the pilot. I mean, like they are trying to use in this session. So match application forms, I mean, match residency plan is already done. It's done in March. So they want to utilize this thing in like right now. So next to March, they will have everything in there. So they did a pilot. So yeah.
And Caroline, you talk through what you guys are working on now. I'd be interested to know, what's next, either in terms of the stack more generally, or in terms of DocuSign and Salesforce and the integration.
So we just merged with Rentrack, which was actually another public company, and I've been kind of doing a roadshow for their salespeople in terms of Salesforce and whatnot. Amazingly, I would say probably 95% of them have never used Salesforce, and probably the majority of those have never even used a CRM. So it's been an interesting couple of weeks. We will be getting them into Aptus and DocuSign as soon as we can. There's still some bifurcation in terms of back office processes. But no, our goal is to sort of scale it to the point where most of our sales reps throughout the world are processing their contracts this way.
And one more for you, Caroline. You gave some of the feedback that your sales folks had as you first started to roll out. I'd be interested not only in terms of what they're thinking now, but also what your end customers have had to say about the new process.
I should have included a slide on that, because actually I get really sweet little messages now from our sales reps who are so tickled. I've actually been called fairy godmother as a result of this entire process. But when they see how quickly they can turn around a contract from entering the opportunity to getting a client-signed signature, I mean, they're just awed, and it's awesome. And they have complete control over the process. You know, they're not asking legal to submit this as a signature or whatever. It's all done automatically. Everything's done automatically. It even uploads it to the opportunity automatically. Assigns a legal contract number. We're using DocuSign functionality for that. It's actually seamless. It's great. And what was the second part of the question? Oh, the interesting thing that I find is the end users, actually. You know, some of them, for some odd reason that I have yet to fathom, will get the contract through DocuSign. Then they will choose to actually print said document, sign the document, scan it in, and then email it back to the sales rep. And I'm like, seriously? And some of them, you know, still want to forward the email on, even though we have very explicit instructions about reassigning. So, but there, I would say those are the smaller cases, and most of them are delighted that they can get business done using their tablet or their iPhone, you know, even while on vacation. It's great.
And I'm curious, for those customers who do print it out and sign it and scan it and mail it, do you accept that, or do you push it back to them to say, we want this entirely within the system? How have you guys been handling that?
I would not be popular among the salespeople if I enforced it. That's all I'm saying. We do accept it, especially at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year. Some of our clients, I'm told reliably, ostensibly by the salespeople, just are very old-fashioned. You know, they're bureaucratic to the hilt, and you know, or maybe they have to get 16 people to sign a simple contract. So no, we have not yet started enforcing it. I don't know if that's down the road for us or not. Good question.
Huma, following along what Caroline was saying in terms of how customers were reacting, you put up some great stats, 95% being completed within a week, 69% within 24 hours. How has the anecdotal feedback been coming back in terms of the process? Has there been any pushback? It's
amazing. I mean, our customers mostly are students, and right away, like I give you an example that students call and I didn't get your enrollment agreement form. I have to sign it. Advisor was on the call. They just sent out the send with DocuSign button and sent it out. Oh, I got it. I signed it and complete it. Most of our are now Salesforce HR forms, promotion letters or approval letters are going to the DocuSign, and they're just like before. We are just getting and waiting for approval letter, sign it, fax it, mail it. Now it's through DocuSign, and then we just completed it. If I got promoted, my manager gave me the promotion letter, I sign it, and then right away. So it's kind of like that. So it was cool. I mean, we had a very great experience with DocuSign, and I learned from training session, Power Forms, and I will definitely implement that in Power Forms to our within Salesforce. Yep, cool.
Along those lines, do you know what the stats were on return times before you started using DocuSign?
So the question is, she had put up the stats on what the current return time is. The question was if she had kind of the before picture in terms of what return time looked like.
You can say like before DocuSign, well, it's a month, more than a month. Yeah. I mean, when I did a schooling from DeVry, did my master's from DeVry, and then I got my letter and like, I have to FedEx or mail it before DocuSign. They didn't. Did you get my email letter? No, I haven't received it. And then after DocuSign, we're just getting it done. It's very soon, pretty fast.
So I've got one final question for them, but before I do that, I just wanted to see if there's anything else from the audience.
If I get an email and I forward it to somebody else, I think you touched on it. Can somebody else accept and sign on it?
If you have rules, if you have a signers on it, yes, you can. Otherwise, it will just see the documents, not sign it. They can see the report, see the documents itself. If you have mentioned, like, I have a signer 1 as a student, signer 2 as an advisor, first it goes to the student first, and then student sign the document, it's notified the advisors, advisors sign it, and it's finished the document, completed it to Salesforce.
So if student 1 sends that to, say, student 2,
Yeah.
they sign on behalf of
Yeah. I mean,
anybody who has
as you notified it, a signer 1 and a signer 2, and put the 2 signatures there, or just like you didn't put the signature part in there, you just say like, we want to see, approve it, or just review the document, you can do it.
So maybe I'm not understanding. Do you have any authentication mechanism that you're using, or are you using the DocuSign authentication mechanism? So
We-
it looks like no authentication mechanism. So
that's what I
if I forwarded you the email, you'd be able to sign on that.
Yes.
No authentication mechanism.
Front end, you mentioned if you configure it that student 2 has authorization to sign, then yes. If not, no.
maybe you can help us here. What are the authentication options perhaps when you send an email out?
Yeah, I mean, there are multiple authentication
yeah.
options. The easiest one is just the email. You do have the ability to reassign to a different signer
Signers,
if you would like to have that option. If you don't, there are a whole host of additional authentication options that are available out of the box. Things like
Access code.
an SMS, a access code, a telephone call, a personally identifiable information, things like that. But you can layer on those additional levels of security if your use cases have that requirement. All right, so my last question for you guys, and I'll start with Caroline. If you had one thing that you wanted to leave our audience with in terms of thinking about DocuSign and Salesforce and working together and what your journey has been like, what piece of advice would you give folks as they're thinking about doing something similar?
So, good question. Because we were implementing it with contract automation at the same time, I think the advice that I would give myself from a year and a half ago, lead with DocuSign, because that's what they're going to focus on. That's going to be the biggest benefit to the sales reps. Lead with that and then back into the other piece.
I'll quote you on that one, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so I will start with before I started with the DocuSign, already DocuSign was implemented by someone else. And once they give me the task, so, okay, you are the DocuSign person, you have to handle everything through the DocuSign, creating templates, tagging, workflows and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, I haven't never done the DocuSign before. What is it? I mean, I go to the manuals and our support person is very helpful. I mean, knowledge base was very great thing, and then you just Google it, search it, you have your answers. Even though I haven't done the API thing, but if developer does something in there and then I have to tweak it with that way, I go in and just tweak it. I'm like, okay, it's pretty easy. I mean, you just go in and write down a code in there. Okay, why the code is not working? They put something in there and our fields in the custom settings in Salesforce not working correctly, or password's not correct, or the user ID is not correct. You just put it in the user ID. That might be the problem is. So you have all the answers in the site as a DocuSign knowledge-based site, and now the community has been developed, and your support person will really help you in that. So, I mean, I'm the challenge person. I mean, always motivate with the challenges, and that was my challenge to accept it, and I accepted, and I'm working with the DocuSign. So, I mean, with DocuSign for Salesforce, correct. So.
All right, well, thank you guys very much. Can we have one last round of applause for Huma and Caroline?
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. So that's it for the breakout sessions. The next thing that we have is back up on the main stage, where we'll do a wrap-up of the conference and also show you some of the really cool stuff that the hackathon has been working on for Team Rubicon. So some great stuff up there. Thanks, guys.